with. Mr. Cummings, first of all, good morning and welcome to 50/50.
Thank you, Tim Max. Good to be back with you. It's been a while since we've been in studio. We had a media engagement earlier this year. And I was just recalling, it's been almost a decade, since about 2015, 2016, since we first met at the old studio, we met and interviewed. And we've had a long relationship, a tough one. People think, Tim Max is easy. But he asks all the tough questions, he disagrees, he pushes back. But it's great to be with you. Labini, good to be with you as well.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm looking forward to the next 45 minutes, an hour of conversation.
Since the elections, let me take you on straight. Since the election 2025, when you performed so miserably, the creation of Apiton sent everybody shockwaves, and you went into a sabbatical. What is the status of the ANC?
The ANC, let me just step back a little bit and talk about the elections, right? And we need to move on from it. We're in 2025, it's almost 18 months later. We did not win, that's a fact. The results, I don't believe the 1% reflects the reality. We had our own independent polling team acts, and it always had us in third, right? But with 10, 11, 12% of the vote, at least, sometimes even higher. So the 1% is a bit nonsense, but that's here nor there. We move forward. The ANC is in the process of re-engaging, reactivating itself, re-energizing the party, renewing the party. In fact, we have a program today where we're going to kick off that effort. I think it was important that we took some time off to watch, observe, reflect, see what's happening in the country. Some people have been trying to take advantage of that. Some new parties, some existing parties have been trying to recruit ANC partisans, so the party dying, or Cummings and I involved in the party. None of that is true. And so we're going to kind of start to launch the re-energization of the party, the re-engagement of the party, the renewal of the party. And so we're excited about that. We're going to be engaging our young people, our youth congress, our women's congress. So the party will re-engage and reactivate from the bottoms up. As opposed to top-down, bottoms-up, take a different approach. But it was important to step back and reflect. And again, and let the new government get its feet under the table, see what they're going to do. And then from time to time, we'll react. People like us to just constantly talk. I don't believe in that. You talk when there's some substance, right? When you can offer options and alternatives. I'm not one for just criticizing for criticizing's sake. That makes no sense. It doesn't help anybody. And I've said consistently to Max, whichever government is in power, we want them to be successful.
Because it's our country.
It's our country. It reduces the suffering on our people, which is what we want. So why would we want to wish anybody, any government bad, right? We want a UP, now that in power, to be successful. And we'll offer, alternative suggestions. We'll be critical in a constructive way where it makes sense. But we're not going to be criticizing or criticizing sake. I don't believe in that, and I'm not going to do that.
I'm interested in the. You have a strong message, a strange and well-coded message. You keep doing the same thing over and over. Don't expect different results. And Liberia seems to be doing the same thing over and over. Why this message was not resonating? Why? Is it, let me help you out with this, is it that we have a political class that want Liberia to remain as stuck in this gear that we can go forward, we can go backward? Why this message of change? Keep doing the wrong thing, keep doing it, you keep getting the wrong result, but we keep doing it. Why that was not resonating?
Yeah, so look, change is difficult, it's hard. And the country has been run this way almost
for years.
For years.
For decades.
From the beginning of the history of Liberia, right? So that change will take time and it's hard. And so we're not going to give up on the message. You cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results, right? If you are a student and you made C last semester, right? And you want to make B or A the next semester, you got to study harder. You got to do something different, right? But those things are not easy.
But our case is that we don't do something different.
But that's the problem. And so that's why I say we got to keep preaching that message. And you're right, the political class is a big part of the problem. the political class, meaning the
Feel uncomfortable?
legislators, the executive branch.
They feel uncomfortable for a change?
No, because they benefit from the country the way it's organized today,
Wow.
the way it's run today. This is the system they know. This is the system that they make money off the Liberian people, right? And that's what they want. So that makes it even more difficult to change when the establishment, when the political, what I call the political class, all the people that benefit from Liberia the way it is today, right? The looting, the stealing, the leeches, the impunity, they are going to fight this change. But Liberians, we cannot give up. We will not give up. We gotta keep trying until we get the right leadership to transform this country so that every Liberian can benefit from the resources of Liberia, which unfortunately isn't happening today.
Probably the message, the way it's being presented, you are saying, that's one of the key takeaways from most of your speeches you make. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect different result. That is very practical. But have you been able to observe maybe there are certain loopholes in the way the message is presented that it's not resonating with the people?
Look, it's clear it didn't resonate, right? We can't dispute that fact, given the results in the last two elections. I'm open to thoughts and suggestions on what else we need to do, right, to get this message to resonate. What I said,
but the message is a reality message. Why it doesn't catch?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we need to understand why. Maybe the messenger, maybe I'm the wrong messenger for the message. We gotta accept that. That's maybe the reality, right? Maybe we need more people to preach that message, right? We need to get more Liberians, more influential people to preach that message. So there's a valid question, Lavindy, as to why the message isn't resonating. It could be me, the messenger. Maybe we have not translated to Liberian what that actually means. Right? It sounds good theoretically, but what that means in practical terms, maybe we haven't translated that message yet. But what I will say to you, though, we'll keep preaching that message, because it can change his heart.
Is it a fact that Liberians are not susceptible to change?
I don't buy that.
I don't buy that.
I think we just gotta keep at it. We gotta get more people to preach the message.
When you said maybe you're the wrong messenger, you've not been elected before, you've not corrupted the system, you've used your resources even during crisis time to support this very country. You have no corruption staying on you regarding Liberian body politics. Why should people not look your direction?
Maybe it's so clean for us.
Again, that's not a question I think I can answer necessarily. All I can do is, try to, in my own way, assess, try to make adjustments, perhaps. But at the end of the day, Liberia is not about Alexander Cummings. It's not about me. It's about the country. And if we find a different messenger who resonates more, then we should support that person. I don't want to be there about Cummings. It's about Liberia. And that's what I want to focus on. And maybe Liberia is a better messenger, or maybe T-Max, or somebody else, right? But the reality is, though, we cannot keep doing the same thing. We cannot keep electing people with the same kind of experiences and expecting to be different, right? So, if not me, maybe there's somebody else, because this is about Liberia, not about Alexander Cummings. One of the things I keep telling the ANC, the party, is that I don't want to build a party around me. I want to build a party around the values of the institution, our beliefs, our mission, our vision. Let people come to the party because of that, and not because of any one individual, right? So this is about Liberia, and not about Alexander Cummings, and I want everybody to keep preaching this. And that means you can elect different people with to get different results, demanding that our politicians look today, Liberia and T-Max, the ministers get paid every month. The legislators get paid every month. They're not doing that work for free. So we should demand that the behaviors be in the interest of Liberian people, right? Maybe we'll get to any of your questions. I don't know what's happening in the legislature with the whole speakership.
Don't call me short.
But my point is,
Right.
Liberians need to be uncompromisingly demanding on these people in government today.
Demanding results or demanding performance?
Both results and performance. Because these people are not doing us a favor. They're not doing it for free. They get paid every month. So they need to be investing in the country and doing the right things. Governance needs to change, right? We should be demanding. So people that say, we're not feeling you Cummings, your impact. My impact? You should feel the impact of the government, the people you pay, who have control of your the taxpayers' money, of the resources of the country. That's how we need to change the thinking of our people in our country.
So just so you remember, that being in government for over a year now, we look at governance, we look at the rule of law, we look at your turf, the economy, with the bread and butter issue in the dining room. Give your perspective, critical, actual, fact-based perspective on the performance of just any human rights economy.
So I was asked that question in my last media engagement, and what I said was the Liberian people didn't answer that question, and there was a lot of feedback. People wanted me to say what I felt, right? Because what I said is,
and I
will give you my perspective. So I will add to my last answer from the last time, but I do want to repeat though. I will start there and I'll give you my perspective. That I think the ultimate judgment of the performance of this government has to be the judgment of the Liberian people. Are they better off today after about 15 months or so? Is unemployment better? Is the cost of living better? Do people have more jobs? Can they feed their families more than they did before? I think those are the questions that Liberians need to make that decision as to are they better off or not. But as I try to assess and look at what's happening, what I would say is that I don't see anything that has fundamentally changed. The actors have changed. It's like, I don't know, people know the whole game of musical chairs. You put the chairs in a circle, you start the music, everybody kind of runs around, the music start.
Yeah, you find a seat.
You find a seat.
Yeah, find a seat, right.
Right? And depending on where you are, sometimes new people find a seat. The last time you were in the seat,
right,
the music starts, somebody else, right? So we've been playing musical chairs, I think, and the actors have changed, but it appears that nothing fundamentally has changed. So when you think about our country, the government is the biggest employer. That should not be the case. It should be the private sector, right? Now, it will take time for that to change, but I don't see anything that is being done from a policy perspective that would change that dynamic so that we can grow the private sector. We are still hugely dependent on the extractive industries, meaning iron ore, diamond, gold, right? Again, in 15 months, you're not going to change that. But what actions is being taken to change that over time? I don't see the fundamentals of the economy changing, the governance of the country. I don't think fundamentally changing. Again, I look at the legislature as an example, dysfunctional. That isn't changing. So in 15 months, the signs are not good, right? Let's hope with another 4 years plus to go.
15 months, are we worse or bad? Are we better than what we were before?
I think
realistically,
we either at the same place we were, or perhaps a little worse off than we were before. 15 months again, not a lot of time. What I'm looking for, right, is are there signs that
hopeful signs,
because 15 months is not long. I like to be fair, right? Are there signs that it will change in the next 4.5 years? Change for the better? I don't see those signs.
What would you have tackled, promptly, were you to be elected, president for 15 months? Because you're asking us to go back to the public and ask them whether they are better off than they were before. 15 months have gone into the government. What would Honorable Alexander Cummings have done had he been elected president in 15 months?
So I will answer that question, give you some examples of things. But I don't like the premise of the question because I'm not president and I'm not running for, there's no election for presidency now. So I would have liked the question to be, what actions would you recommend the government do and take as opposed to if you were president? Because
let me imagine you sitting there in the president.
No, but let's
not imagine.
But look, some examples of things.
Right.
I think, and I think this has been talked about, but I've seen no actions. And this is in no particular order. We should have been doing all of these things. One is a national youth service corps to start investing in our young people. I think that's something we should be doing.
Do it why?
So for example, in other countries in West Africa have done this. You set up a corps, you get a bunch of young people, you allocate money for that to pay them, and you can set up an agricultural corps, so young people to work in agriculture around the country. or you can set up a code that will work on roads or infrastructure. So different areas, and you put young people, you send people from Grand Juda to Maryland, or from Grand Juda to Cape Mount, but it's a means of engaging young people, of giving them skills, of giving them small income, right? So that, again, you can start to attack this unemployment situation among young people. So national youth sector. Another example of stuff I think it makes sense to do is provide credit financing to Liberian businesses, including market women. So a fund, again, President, we are in 2 State of the Nation addresses, talked about doing that and never did it. Something that, whether it's $10 million, $20 million, whatever the money, find the money through the banks or through village savings and some institution that exists, and let them start to loan money to small businesses, to market women, so they can grow and expand their businesses. That's something, again, you begin to have direct impact on the Liberian people. That's another example of things we're doing. Tackling this thing called corruption, this thing called waste, this thing called stealing. Corruption sometimes makes it sound good, right? Say somebody's corrupt. I say that person's a rogue, right? So tackling this thing in a comprehensive way. Let's take the example of the yellow machine saga, right? The number was, $70+ million at one point. Now it's down to $22 million. Are there any consequences for why that's the case? In fact, is even 22 million the right number? I don't know. It's a lot better than when it was at 70 something, right? But an example of, are there consequences? Are we serious about this stealing and corruption that is taking place in the country? So that's something we would have focused on, because those monies can be reallocated to more. The monies we spend on the whole budget prioritization, right, is something we need to revisit. Are we putting money against the Liberian people, against the things that will impact their lives? Agriculture, are we investing enough to fundamentally move our economy from being extractive-led to being agro-based? If you think about the Ghanaian economy, they have rural economy. Although they got other resources, those are agro-based economies. Are there signs today that we're making this shift? It will not happen overnight. It's not easy. But are there indications that shift is happening? I don't see it. Right? So those are just some examples of things that I think the government can still do, by the way. It's not too late. They can do some of these things.
But so that means that fundamentally the economy has not, in your view, in your scale of training, has not picked up what it ought to have been.
No, so at what you call the macro level, the big picture level, the economy is supposed to grow, I think, 5+%. And that's a good thing that is happening, right? So check, give the government credit for that. But it's an impact in the average Liberian. Is your life Liberian better off today than it was? Are you making more money today? Right? Can you afford, to send your children to school on a consistent basis, right? So it's one thing to have the macro numbers growing and positive, and that's a plus. But is that filtering down to the average Liberian? Is the healthcare worker making more money today than he or she was? The teacher is and making more money than the cost of living is growing. Because there's one thing you can say, yeah, everybody making $20, $30 or more, but if cost of goods are going up faster, you're not helping the person, right? You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So
Liberians are still complaining the same thing you complain about the issue of how do we survive tomorrow? How do we survive today to be hopeful for tomorrow? In the face of that, there was a noise sometime last week. Monrovia had about 2 additional Lexus. Are Upton GMB fleet, and people say, hey, we're not making money, we're not finding food to eat, yet he's buying cars. In your mind, because we put the figures there, the front page put it at $300,000. I researched it already. I'm not in government. It's not my business to make government look good. It's my business to go for the facts and see what the facts are. It's economically leading people that are more or less starving, looking for food to eat, getting their kids to school. In their faces, you have a luxurious Lexus.
I think is what I call an own goal. First of all, it's waste. It shouldn't happen. That's scoring an own goal on yourself, if you want to use a football analogy. Because
and home goals are difficult to redeem.
Because in the wake of the struggles of the Liberian people, in the wake of what's happening internationally in the world, all the turmoil that's happening, even symbolically, leadership is about what I call substance So fixing the educational system, healthcare system, agriculture, that's substance, that's hard to do. But symbolically, the actions you can take that shows to people that you're sacrificing with them too, that you understand their plight, right? And getting to understand bulletproof Lexus sends all the wrong message. It shows insensitivity, it shows lack of empathy to the struggle of the average Liberian. I don't know what I don't know what the national security threat is
for him to ride
that justify that. I don't the political environment. I mean, there's no election happening. I don't know. Maybe the NSA and the EPS know stuff. I don't know about the security threat around the president. But it sends all the wrong messages when people are
struggling. Would it be different if the two cars added to his convoy were not bulletproof? Because the security guys are telling me is that, hey, GMB had a situation, a terrible situation. He was stuck in the middle of nowhere because one of the cars that he was using broke down. So is it that it's a bulletproof car, or is it necessary for two new cars so as not to have that embarrassment?
Yeah, no, but look, T-Max, he had two cars. So the fact that a car breaks down, you put in another car, you can repair the car, the other car, or whatever. So, but is the cost of those vehicles, is the message it sends?
Is the optics.
Is the optics of it, the cost of it, the message it sends? Again, I don't know if there's a national security threat that justify spending that kind of money on vehicles.
Is it the bulletproof, or would they have ever mattered to anybody? Had it been any other car?
I think it's more the cost of the car that matters, how much to spend, and the fact that Lexus is a luxury brand as opposed to a Toyota, right? It's a difference, right? I don't know this for a fact. If you had a Toyota bulletproof, it may have been 200,000 or 150 instead of 300,000 to spend, right? So look, I know, for example, I don't know if this is still the case. It's been a while. Talk about vehicles in general, right? In Rwanda, which is a country that everybody talks about and doing well in Africa, and it is doing well. They used to, I don't know if they still do, they used to buy the equivalent of a Toyota RAV4 for the legislators and the ministers, not Land Cruisers. I mean, that's an example of people being practical. The difference in price is maybe almost $100,000 per vehicle, right? That difference is what you're investing in education, in agriculture, in healthcare, in infrastructure, etc. As opposed to paying for people's vehicles. The question is, should we even be buying all of these vehicles? The frequency with which we change them. Should we be giving legislators, ministers an allowance, let them go buy their own vehicles because they will take care of it more than government vehicles? These are all questions we should be asking ourselves so that we are prioritizing how we spend the little bit of money we have against the interests of Liberian people, not against 103 legislators, right? And then the ministers, a few thousand people that enjoy this country and majority of people suffer.
Let me take you.
Is this kind of rethinking, reprioritization, standardizing, right? That's kind of how we will fundamentally change the country.
In 2018, 2019 thereabout, President Weah was accused of moving out of a private jet. It was confirmed that his friend Muhammadu Bunkonko gave it to him. He came back and responded. He said it's to boost the president's morale. Today, political pundits believe that the president of the Republic of Liberia should live a dignified life. Therefore, his security is paramount. What do you have to say to people who come up, from these angles, that the fact that you're president, there's no need for you to come and say words about your wheelbarrow to go to the executive mansion? We must elevate your standard to a certain degree, regardless of the difficulties that folks are going through in the country.
So, look, I say it's the question of how big the gap is. There is some merit to the argument that the president or the leaders of the country need to have a certain stature, a certain level. But the gap cannot be too far from the average Liberian. That disconnect, I think, is the issue. Is the gap between when the average person is struggling to put a meal on the table, and people are riding around in 100,000 Lexus or Land Cruisers or whatever. That for me is the issue. Is the gap, right? And And it's unfair, it's unconscionable, it's kind of wicked to have that bigger gap between your people, the people that you're supposed to be looking after and serving, and then how you live, right? Particularly on their backs, meaning on their money, on their resources, their taxes, the natural resources that we collect. That's what you live in that good life offer. It's not like you living off your own money, right? And yet the average person is struggling. So I mean, there's the gap between the government people and the average Liberian. That is just too wide. That's the problem. And it sends all around messages when people are suffering, and that's something symbolically. So there's all this stuff on social media. I don't know about what's happening in the Sahara, in Burkina Faso, Mali. How these people are living, the leaders are living more modestly, right? Because of the message is sent to the people that we're in this struggle with you. I know you're struggling. Yes, I'm riding a car. You're taking Pempe or Keke, but the kind of car I'm riding is not way up there. That's it. I don't know if I'm making sense. Right. Is that nuance? Is that different? So I'm not begrudging, the president or the leaders of the country to have a certain stature, right? They travel they meet with their colleagues from around Africa, from around the world. There's a certain level there, but the reality of the people you're leading, the people you're serving, that's the issue, and we gotta have that level of sensitivity. We gotta make policy decisions that Liberians know. Yes, the president is riding a nice car, but I see a path for my future that one day I may also ride a nice car because of the economic policies they put in place. I can start a business, or I'm getting a job, or I can start my farm. When those things are happening, people will care less about the kind of car the president rides, or whether he's riding a plane or not. If people are feeling good about their lives, their prospects, they know their children doing well, that kind of stuff, then the kind of car the president rides, a private jet, becomes less relevant. I remember, I'm old enough to remember Talbot, Tim and I are close. When Talbot bought a plane and stuff, there was a little bit of noise, but people felt the country was kind of moving forward, right? And so there wasn't
would it be a good idea, instead of using this private thing, borrowing for renting it, would it be a good idea that we have a national carrier that the president uses whenever the president wants to make a trip? Because, mind you, President Cummings is going to South Africa. I'm just giving you an example. Don't shy away from this. President Cummings is going to South Africa. He has to take, how you call it? Ace-car. Ace-car drive the president, Liberian president. The meeting is in South Africa is for tomorrow morning. He drive the Liberian president in Lomé. He has to wait. By the time he gets on, this grudge, inconvenience. So would it be a good idea if we have a national carrier?
So, yes.
Instead of pretending that somebody gave you a car to boost your morale, or pretending there's a guy goodwill, and we buy a national carrier.
If it makes economic sense,
if we have the money, if the economy is working.
But not only if we have the money. I mean, you can borrow the money. If it makes economic sense to have a national carrier, we should. But the president shouldn't arbitrarily use it as well. So again, I want to digress a little bit for you. Ethiopian Airways is one of the best, if not the best airline in Africa. It's been around for, 40, 50 years. And the reason why it's successful is that the Ethiopian government does not interfere in the running of the airline, right? If they're going to use it, they schedule it. So they don't come to the airport and say, all the passengers get off, the president gotta go somewhere else. Or the government pays their bills for using the airline, right? My point is that if you want to do airlines, it's got to be economically justifiable, then you do it. But the bigger point is, yes, you cannot ignore the fact that it is not productive for any president of Liberia to sit in the airport in Lomé for 4 hours waiting for a connecting flight, right? I get that. And so I think it's when you decide to buy a plane or charter a plane, again, if your economy is doing well, if Liberian people are feeling good about the future, if the trends are going in the right direction, people will not bother you too much when you do these things, because again, it's not effective. And then how you explain it. If you explain it because of person morale, that will piss people off, right? But if you explain because, look, it's not productive, it's not constructive, it's not even too much of a stature, but that 4 hours, that present time that will be spent more productive doing something else, right? But again, it's all about the timing of when you do these things, how you do it, you know, how you position it, all that kind of stuff. That is not only